Hola everybody, welcome to a new episode of Unity 2D tutorials. In this episode, we're going to learn how to stack up items and also check if our inventory is full or not. Look at this, boom, boom, I'm picking up cherries. If I open my inventory, it shows I got 3, 2, 1, done. Let's go. Before we go ahead with this video, you should get the inventory system script, and that script is in one of my videos. It's called the inventory system. You'll find it if you search in my videos, or I'll put the link in the top right section. So let's start with this. So as we have before, you can see here we've got an item, right? We got this cherry, we got this eagle. There's not an item, by the way. Cherry, another cherry, and we can put a lot of other items. So this item is a pickup consumable item. First of all, let's fix the name, cherry. What we're going to do is we're going to convert this item into more dynamic. So we're going to have two types of pickable items. We're going to have stackable and non-stackable. And the easiest way of doing this is entering the script. And the best place to add it is into the attributes here. Let's add a public boolean, call it stackable, and keep it by default false. For now, let's add this here. And the second thing is, I want to first play the game and then show you how it all will look like, and then we're going to start implementing them step by step. Okay, so we have playing, right? So if I pick up this item and I click I can see it here. We're going to have to add something that's going to be visible on the right of the name. It says x2, x3, x4, and can be stackable. If it's not stackable, it's going to just append until we fill up the whole environment. And if we have a full inventory, we're gonna, not pick up any more items. So we're gonna also integrate the full inventory, I want to say it, mechanics. Let's stop this. So the first thing we've done is we add the stackable boolean to the cherry. The next thing we need to do is we need to go to the inventory system, which I have in the Fox in my player. Here we go. That's it. And we need to make sure that we have a method that indicates that if we can pick up an item or no. So we have to check if we're full of inventory or not. So let's add a method here. Let's say where we have the pickup. Here we go. Here's the pickup. Let's have a public boolean can pick up. So it's going to return a boolean, and we have to call it before we actually click on the pickup item. Let's go ahead and see what do we have. If you go here, you see, forget this right now. In the inventory system, we've got the items, which is a list of game objects, the UI window, which is the UI layout, and the item images. These images, they are the backdrop, these stuff here, these elements. So this is an indicator of how many things we have in our inventory. So we have a 6-slot inventory. See, we have inside an empty image, which will be replaced by the item. So this is an indicator of how many inventory items, or at least how many inventory slots do we have, regardless. So we're gonna use the items and the item images and compare them in a way that will give us the the possibility if we can pick up or no. How to do this is, items is how many items do we hold in our inventory, but item images is basically a placeholder. So we're gonna check, does the number of the items that we've picked up is similar or bigger than this one? Actually, similar is enough, but bigger is just for the sake of it. If so, we're gonna return false, which means we're full. Otherwise, we return true. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go with if items that count, so the count of the items that we have is equals or bigger or equals item images dot length. This is because it's an array, and this one is a list. So we have this way. So if the number of the items that we hold are similar or bigger than the items placeholders, which is like 6, 7, 8, 9, even 2, doesn't matter, we return false, means we can't pick up anymore. Otherwise, we return true. Now you can ask me, when do we call this? If we go back to the item script itself, the item, the cherry, the apple, the whatever, the weapon, any item that you want, you see that we have something called interact. So interact is determines what type of interaction do we do according to the item interaction type. So we have 3 types: none, pickup, examine, and grab and drop. So for this episode, we're gonna use the pickup because examine doesn't, like, we're not putting it in the inventory. Neither grab and drop. The grab and drop is just temporary holding it. So we're gonna check it in here. So before we pick up the item and then disable it, we need to do something here. We need to go if and then call this same method, the inventory dot can't pick up. So I'm gonna do this thing. I'm gonna check. If we cannot pick it up, I'm gonna return. What this means is, do you see, like, I put the exclamation mark at the start? You can put this way or just go like here. Does not equals true. Both of them have the same result, but I like to do it this way, more efficient. So if we cannot pick up an item, we return. Return means we exit the whole script. Why I did return instead of putting if this? Because at the end of this case, we have the custom invoke, which is if the item has a specific event or action, we can consume it. Otherwise, we don't consume it. But I don't want to consume anything. Like, if we can't pick it, if we cannot pick up the item, done, get out. So this will do it. So we finalize the first step, and we can detect if we can pick up an item or no, which is good. The next thing we need to do is to check if the item is stackable. For this, we're gonna have to go to exactly the next step. Next step is pick up. Pick up is here. So we have a simple structure here, which is we have a game object of the item, which is a cherry, apple, whatever, and we're adding it to the list. And the list is a game object list. We're gonna have to change this now. You'll see why. So first of all, we have to do this thing. If item that get component item. So the game object that we have, I need to access the item script and see if it's stackable. And we have the else. So let's go with the next scenario. So if it's not stackable, we just add it. That's it. But if it's stackable, we'll do this thing. We have to go see, do we have the same item in our inventory? If we do, we just stack it. If we don't, we just add it as the first item. Check if we have an existing item in our inventory. If so, if yes, stack it. If no, add a new item. Add it as a new item. That's it. Simple as this. So they ask me, how will I know if I have it? For this, instead of checking for the item itself, we need to have some sort of a parameter that indicates we have 1 stack, 2 stacks, 3, 4, 5. And then that means we have to change the list of the items. And to change it, we need to make a new class, and you'll see why. Inventory item class. Let's go create a class, call it inventory item. And inside of it, we'll have game object, which is going to be the same as this one. I'm going to call it obj. And the next one will be stack. And by default, it's going to be 1. What this does is we're going to have the game object itself add it as an obj, and then put the number as 1. If it's stackable, we just increase it. If it's not stackable, it will be 1. It doesn't matter because we have one item. So let's change the type here to inventory item, and let's fix all the errors that we have here. So here, instead of adding item here, we have to add inventory item. So as if every class, we have a constructor and deconstructor. So constructor gives you the ability to instantiate an object and assign whatever variables you want or do anything inside of it. So you can write the constructor by writing public. Of course, I want to put public because I want to access it from outside. We write public and the name of the class without any return value, by the way. And deconstructor is simply you write this element, but we don't want to get deconstructor. And this technically gives us the default instructor. So we want to pass two values. We want to pass the game object and the number. So the game object will be the object that we want to assign. And then we're going to insert a stack. And by default, I will give it 1 because every time we're going to have a stack of 1. And let's do this one. So we got this input. Let's assign it to this element. We go obj equals O. And then we assign the stack to the number given. Don't get confused. You can do this. Is just makes it much more easier. Here we go. So the first thing we need to do is we go inventory item. Let's call it I equals new. So if you see, if I click new, it will give me the option to input these stuffs. If you don't put the constructor, you will have this empty, and then you have to assign the manual like I.object, and then, but this one is way much simpler. So first of all, we have to assign the object, which is this one, item, and the stack. So right now here, let's do if item is stackable. If item is not stackable. So if item is not stackable, this is not correct. We just add it without inputting the stackable number because by default, as you can see, it says integer s equals 1. So we add this here. I think it'll be fine. Here we go. And let's see the other errors here. So first of all, we have to make sure that we were accessing the game object. But here, we're accessing the inventory item. So we have to add something before we get the component is .obj. So that's the rest of these stuff. We just have to do it this way. .obj, obj, and here the same thing. .obj, 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 here .obj. We'll fix other stuff, but first let's get the pickup. So if it's not stackable, it just adds up. If we get different items like a book, a chair, whatever, they just get stacked. They just get appended. But if it's stackable, we have to check. So first of all, we have to do something called find in a list. So we have to, first of all, let's check it. Items.find. And then we have to apply something called lambda predictable match, which is not that difficult. Just follow the same pattern. So inside find, we have to say, look for an object, something that has this. So he will look through the list, and if he finds an object that has this, and this, he will give you that object. If no, it will return null. So we have to assign something called, like you can put z, x, y, anything. But I'm used to calling x, and then you have to do equals bigger, which means like it's like if this object dot obj dot name. So I'm gonna write this, and I'm gonna explain what it means. Equals item dot name. So this is up to you. So what I'm doing is I'm checking if the name of the object that we picked up exists. You know, like it's there. we have the same object with the same name. So for this one, you might not like it. You might say, okay, what if I have the same names but different, things, which doesn't make sense. But again, you can choose whatever you want. You can put in the item itself, you can put some enum or some specific string. But I'm going to go with the simplest way, which is the name of the game object. So we have to make sure that if we have a stackable object, all of them, they have to have the same name, which logically makes sense. So what I'm doing here, I'm saying look through items and find X, where X, the obj name, so the name of the object that this X has equals the input item that we have. So if that happens, it will return, as you see, it will return an inventory item. So we need to cache it, item, let's call it I. Here we go. So we've got this item. Again, if it exists or doesn't exist, it will execute. But if it does not exist, this local variable I will be null. So we go with I equals null. Here we go. Actually, doesn't, because if we have the item here, so that means it's not null. So it's an existing. If yes, stack it. If no, that means it's null. We just add it. So let's do this thing. If we don't have it anymore, we just add the same script here. What this means is we take this item, we make it an inventory item, and then actually, let's name this existing item. Yep, that's good. Yeah, so we just if we don't have this, like if we don't have it in our inventory, we just add it. But if we have it, we just stack it up. And this is even the simplest one. So we've got the item, right? All we have to do is that stack equals 1. That's it. That's everything. Because stack is the number of how many stacks do we have. Okay. I assume it's gonna be fine now. We have some stuff to add, which is like the descriptions and all, but we can do some testing. So let's say we have this cherry, right? Let's put it here. Let's remove, we don't want any consume effects. So let's have another cherry in here and another cherry in here. And make sure all of them, they have the same name as I discussed. So these are all cherry. And again, we have to hold all of them and also have another cherry here. We have to enable the stackable. Let's save. Let's give it a test. So before I'm going to pick up the items, I'm going to open my inventory. See, I have nothing. So let's pick up 1. We've got a cherry. Let's go pick up 2. So it's getting stacked. You don't see it, but it's getting stacked. Let's go to the fox. Yep. We don't see it anymore here. So we have to make sure that we make it visible. So let's pick up the third one and look. See, right now we have 3 of those, which means if I click 1, 2, 3, yep. So I have to check one thing here. First of all, let's make this class system that's serializable. What that means is we can see it in front of us here. You can see here. Oh my god. See, now it's visible here. Let's check it out. Now we got a list of 0. Let's go pick up some cherries. So we picked up 1. You see we got an element 0, which is the cherry, and we got 1 stack. Let's pick up 2 stacks, 3 stacks. Easy peasy. So what we're gonna do now, we're gonna have to make sure that 2 things. We have to make sure that whenever we hover on the item, we show in description an indicator that we have 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, if we have 1, we don't need to show it. But we have 2, 3, 4, etc. We showed an x2, x4. And the next thing is when we consume the item. So consuming the item, right now what we're doing is Let's fix this consume custom. What we're doing here is we're consuming the item and then destroying it and removing it, which is wrong. So before we destroy and remove it, we have to check what? The stack, which means if we have 3 of those items, we just remove 1, become 2, and then at least becomes 1, and then it goes away. And when it's 0, we destroy the item. Because if we have a stack of 4 items and then we call it as it is, it's gonna just destroy. So let's add something here called reduce the stack number. Items id dot stack minus minus. So we get the ID, we just access the ID of that item and we reduce the stack. Then if the stack is 0, that's it. If items ID that stack equals 0, we do all this stuff. So when we reach 0, that's when we destroy the item. And you might ask, what about non-stackable objects? It's the same thing because non-stackable objects has a stack of 1, which means it's only one time used. So it decreases the number, becomes 0, and then deletes it. This is the consuming. What about the description? So right now, if you can see here, show description, we're putting the image, the text, and the description. So we don't want any of those stuff. We need to modify the name, which is the title. Let's do it this way. If stack equals 1, write only name. If stack bigger than 1, write name plus x, and then stack value. See, that's simple. We're gonna do it this way. If items.id stack, let's say equals 1, that's fine. And then else, let's do the other one. So let's make sure it's here. Let's check this one here. You can do different kind of conditions. You can put if stack is less than 2, that means if it's 1 or 0, which we never access 0, by the way. But if it's 1, that happens. If it's bigger, same thing. So here I'm saying if it's 1, I write the name. If it's not 1, which is logically we don't have 0, so we have 2, 3, 4, etc. We write the name plus, let's give it space, and then here we write items.id.stack. So this will make sure that it adds the the stack. Let's see if my job is good. Let's see. Caca. Here we go. As you can see here, I'm gonna put this in the view. We've got no items. Amazing. Let's go pick this item. Right now it shows cherry, right? Because the stack is 1. So we don't have to put x1 because it doesn't make sense. If I pick up 2, I have stack of 2. If I hover, it says x2. You see it now? Now here it says x3. So if I use 1, it becomes x2. If I use again, it becomes 1. Then use another one, it's gone. That's it. Done. Bueno. I think this will do it. I hope you liked this episode, and if you got any more ideas about adding more attributes or features to the inventory, please do, because this one was suggested by one of my subscribers. Other than this, if you liked the episode, hit the like and subscribe. Also join our Discord channel, and if you got any more questions, hit the comments below, and I'll see you all in the next one. Adios!